Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Box Office Talk. This is the show where I break down what happened at the box office, see if my predictions for the top 5 are correct, then make predictions for next week's top 5. So let's get right on into it. Last week I predicted that number 1 would be Beetlejuice, number 2 would be The Front Room, number 3 would be Deadpool and Wolverine, number 4 would be Alien Romulus, and number 5 would be It Ends With Us. And surprisingly, I got 3 out of 5 of my predictions right for this weekend. I thought I was going to do way worse when, number 1, a certain movie was not in the top 5, and also a certain movie bounced back from last weekend. I would say it's not like a complete rebound, but it's definitely doing better, like just placement wise in the top 10, like to the point where like nobody else got their predictions right for this weekend because nobody else could predict it. That being said, though, a decent 3 out of 5 for me, considering I fumbled 2 other major aspects. Number 1 was, of course, Beetlejuice. I don't think this is really a surprise because, you know, it's a sequel. It's kind of a long time in the making. People are fans of that original film. I think some people are surprised, though, that it really did kind of beat the industry expectations. No one, as far as I saw, no one really had it opening domestically in the triple digits, you know, like 100 million. But right now, for the 3-day weekend, it opened to $110 million. Worldwide, it is only sitting at 145 million, which, you know, I figured, I'm sure because of the paranormal, spooky aspects of this film, that it probably won't be released in some markets like, you know, China. So it'll probably be more of like, similar to like how Twisters kind of did, or it'll probably be more of like an American-driven kind of box office boom. But that being said, I mean, for Tim Burton alone, this is pretty fucking incredible. Like, as far as opening weekends, it is 6 million below the opening weekend for Alice in Wonderland, so that places Beetlejuice as the second highest opening weekend ever for Tim Burton. Also for opening weekends, it's the second highest for a movie released in the month of September ever, 13 million below the opening weekend of It Chapter 1, and also for this year of 2024, it's the third highest opening weekend, 44 million below Inside Out 2 and 101 million below Deadpool and Wolverine. The fact that Beetlejuice 2 is the one to like kind of rival those ones is kind of incredible. And especially considering this has an initial production budget of $100 million, it opening overall worldwide over that 145 million, 55 million away from doubling that, and they're obviously going to do that. I mean, this movie is just in a really fantastic place, and then we get into the rest of Tim Burton's filmography, so let's just rattle off a bunch of shit here. You know, since this was his second highest opening weekend ever, obviously it's going to clear a lot of the other films, unadjusted for inflation, out of the water. As far as the domestic grosses, it is $105 million over Ed Wood, $96 million over Big Eyes, $75 million over Frankenweenie, $73 million over Mars Attacks, $70 million over Pee-wee's Big Adventure, $58 million over Sweeney Todd, $57 million over Corpse Bride and Edward Scissorhands, $44 million over Big Fish, $36 million over the original Beetlejuice, $31 million over Dark Shadows, $23 million over Miss Peregrine, and $9 million over Sleepy Hollow. It is only $4 million away until it outgrosses Dumbo, his Dumbo movie, which he said, you know, sucked and sucked the life out of him too. But right now that places Beetlejuice 2 as the 7th highest grossing film he has ever made, and that's just domestically. Worldwide, it is 140 million over Ed Wood. Ed Wood didn't get released in a lot of... I was kind of surprised to see that stat when looking at the numbers. Ed Wood apparently did not have a wide release, which is kind of shocking. Anyways, 118 million over Big Eyes, 105 million over Pee-wee's Big Adventure, 92 million over Edward Scissorhands, 70 million over the original Beetlejuice, 64 million over Frankenweenie, 44 million over Mars Attacks, 31 million over Corpse Bride, and 22 million over Big Fish. It needs 8 million now until it outgrosses Sweeney Todd. So it's just, yeah, man, just really climbing the ranks of all these other Burton films, and that's pretty amazing. You know, this is definitely, a lot of people have kind of been talking about this as if like this is the rejuvenation that Tim Burton really needed. He has kind of said that, and a lot of people have really taken to that after seeing the film and having a fun time with it. I've seen even some people like say like, you know, whatever their problems are, blah, 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 but then follow it up with, but, you know, the vibes were pretty killer. Like, I had a good time. So I feel like a lot of people are kind of looking at this as like the rejuvenation of Tim Burton's career, of just his name. You know, people are excited to see this and be like, yeah, Tim Burton's back. This is what we need. You know, his wacky shit, his wacky, you know, paranormal weird shit. So there you go. A really successful weekend for Tim Burton. He really kind of has needed it. You know what I mean? After Dumbo, Columbo and Miss Peregrine, you know what I mean? And Frank and Weenie kind of underperformed. Big Eyes, no one paid attention to that, even though that's a decent movie if you ever want to check that out. It's been a couple years since he's had like a pretty solid commercial hit like this. So there you go. I guess Wednesday, but different mediums, TV, and especially in that case, streaming versus theatrical released film. So yeah, just a really fantastic win for this guy. I can't wait to see what he does next with the clout from this. I don't know if Warner's is going to force him to do Beetlejuice 3 right away, or if they'll be like, okay, just make whatever you want to do. I don't know. But I'm interested to see what he does as an artist. You know, I'm curious to see what calls him. Anyways, let's move on to number 2, which is Deadpool and Wolverine, making $7 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $614 million. Not over the original Avengers yet, so it's not in the top 5 highest-grossing domestic runs for the MCU yet, but it is only $9 million away from that original film. Worldwide, it is sitting at $1.287 billion. So once again, hasn't outgrossed Black Panther yet, but it's only behind that by $47 million this time. So it's still number 7 for the worldwide runs for the MCU, but it's inching closer to both of those movies. I have nothing else to add, so let's just get into the interesting one this weekend, other than Beetlejuice 2. And when I say interesting one, I mean, not really, just by comparison. Number 3 is Reagan. Opened to number 4 last weekend, and it, stuck around in the top 5 so much that it overtook another spot. It's at number 3. Doesn't mean that it's still doing all that well. There's no worldwide total yet, and this weekend it only made $5 million, adding to a domestic total of $18 million. So not over the initial production budget of 25, not at the doubling point, which is our basic standard of success. But it stuck around a little bit. And that's all I've got to add. I really don't have much to talk about here. It's just kind of interesting to mention that it did slightly better. Number 4 though is Alien Romulus, making $3.9 million, adding to a domestic total of $97 million, inching closer. It needs $29 million until it outgrosses Prometheus, so it is still not the highest grossing film in the Alien franchise. And I guess since it's making only $3 million right now, and this weekend it probably won't get to that point, but it's had a hell of a run already. Worldwide it is sitting at $314 million, which means that $6 million more, and they have successfully quadrupled their $80 million initial production budget, which is pretty damn exciting if you ask me. They need $88 million until they outgross Prometheus there, but I think the bigger win is that for their own standards, quadrupling that budget is pretty fantastic. Number 5 is It Ends With Us, making $3.7 million. Very close race, this and Alien Romulus, in more ways than one, which we'll talk about in a second. So this movie made $3.7 million, adding to a domestic total of $141 million. For the year of 2024, it has outgrossed domestically A Quiet Place Day 1 by $3 million. It's now sitting behind Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes by $30 million. And kind of similar to what I was talking about with Alien and Prometheus, I don't really see where it's at right now and going oh yeah, it'll definitely make that 30 million and outgross Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. But hey, it is in the top 10 highest grossing domestic runs of the year, so that's all that counts for this movie. Worldwide, it is sitting at $309 million, and for the year of 2024, it still has $5 million to go until it outgrosses Alien Romulus. It is currently the 15th highest grossing film of the year worldwide. Now you might be wondering, Jackson, a couple weeks ago didn't you say that it already did outgross Alien Romulus, and in fact the next thing it needed to really outgross is Twisters? And yeah, I did say that, but the thing about this and Alien Romulus is that they are very neck and neck. If you notice, like I just said, it's $5 million away from outgrossing Alien Romulus worldwide, but I had already said it did a couple weeks ago. Alien Romulus was able to slip by, and of course these numbers are very close together, they're very tight, so It Ends With Us could theoretically overtake Alien Romulus again worldwide, but right now they're neck and neck, so it's kind of wild, you know what I mean? It's kind of interesting that happened. These movies that were released, only a week apart are in really close competition with each other. I think, It Ends With Us, if I'm remembering correctly, had the better opening weekend than Alien Romulus, but I mean, Alien Romulus seems to have stuck around a little bit better for some other people, so there you go. I don't know. Maybe it's just the Colleen Hoover kind of front-loaded opening weekend, and then some people got more curious because of the drama that was being talked about on TikTok and Twitter and all that. But Alien Romulus seems to be the movie that as of right now, with the slight nudge ahead that it has, seems to be the movie that is really getting to people. As far as the overall worldwide, domestically, it's obviously, it ends with us, but worldwide numbers, which is everyone, not just America. Number 6 is The Forge, making $2.9 million, adding to a domestic total of $20 million. For the Kendrick Bros, it still needs $13 million until it outgrosses Fireproof, but hey, they have quadrupled their initial production budget of $5 million, which is the real win here for them. I really, I feel like I talk about this every time. I sound like a broken record, but there really does come a certain point where there's nothing else to really talk about other than good job, movie. Number 7 is Twisters, making $2.2 million, adding to a domestic total of $264 million. Worldwide, it is sitting at $365 million, so $130 million away from that original Twister film. Not that it necessarily needs to outgross it at that point. We've already doubled our 155 initial production budget number here. And, everything else is just, the cherry on top. It would be really cool if it was able to muster enough energy to get that extra 35 million to get to 400 million worldwide. But, it's good where it's at. It's the modest Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes run that I keep talking about. Number 8 is Blink Twice, making $2.1 million, adding to a domestic total of $20 million. So at the very least domestically, they have crossed the initial production budget of $20 million worldwide. I was actually, for whatever reason, surprised to see this. I can't really remember where it was. I know I edited this note earlier, but I didn't make a note of where it was originally, so I feel bad. And I didn't check the original video. My bad. But it's sitting at 34 million worldwide right now, which I thought was like a pretty impressive boost, because right now it only needs 6 million until it outgrosses the doubling point of that initial production budget. It won't be by a whole lot, but I mean, I think with the hold that it had domestically combined with the worldwide total, it could squeak by it, which is pretty good. Just a, slight modest hit. Which is kind of interesting. I think I'm just more so surprised at the bump. I feel like it was lower last time we checked, but I'm also stupid, so who knows. Number 9 is Despicable Me 4, making $1.8 million, adding to a domestic total of $357 million. Similar to, I guess, Alien Romulus, similar to Deadpool and Wolverine, inching so much closer to the other film in the list. It needs $11 million now until it outgrosses Despicable Me 2. Closer than it's ever been, obviously, but I feel like the momentum has definitely died down enough where it probably won't be outgrossing it there. Worldwide, though, it might be out of the top 10 when this happens. But worldwide, since it's sitting at 929 million, that places it 8 million behind Minions Rise of Gru, which, as we've been talking about for a couple weeks, is the next film it would need to outgross at this point. So yeah, it'll probably happen outside of the top 10, but worldwide they've been having some pretty good comebacks, and domestically they've been slowing down enough where you can kind of see the trajectory. Worldwide, it's like, well, who knows? I mean, that's slowing down too, obviously, but they're still getting a decent amount of money added up here, so it'll definitely outgross it just out of the top 10. And finally, closing out the video, number 10, The Front Room. It did actually make it into the top 10, just not the top 5, and not number 2. Once again, I said this last week, I put too much stock into some predictions, and sometimes I don't, just to be petty. It's totally my bad. But this movie only made 1.6 million this weekend. I am not sure what the budget of this thing is. I can't imagine it's too much, because you got Brandy in there. I don't know how much she costs, especially for like an indie A24 movie like this. It was made, I don't know if it was made indie and then A24 picked it up, or if A24 commissioned it, whatever. But also Catherine Hunter is a pretty popular character actress in the past couple years, like in Tragedy of Macbeth. Also A24. She was in Poor Things too. So I don't know how much she costs. They're only in really like 2, maybe 3 locations. It's not like this like big expensive movie at first glance, like if you think back to it, but who knows how much they put in. Who knows if 1.6 million is enough. The budget is not available for me to see. For whatever reason, I feel like I do this a lot with A24. If the budgets aren't available for me to see right away, I will go to like the Blumhouse model of like, okay, well, some of their cheapest movies are like 5 million, at the most. So maybe that's what The Front Room cost. Or maybe it's lower and 1.6 million is good. I don't know. A budget would help, but we don't have it, and it's probably not going to be here next weekend. So this is the entirety of The Front Room box office talk. Sorry, Brandy. Anyways, now it's time for the fun part, the predictions for next week's top 5. Number 1, I am going with Beetlejuice once again. I feel like, even with the newer releases coming out, I don't think it'll be much attention taking away from Beetlejuice. I think it'll hold pretty well. Number 2, I do think will be Speak No Evil, just because that trailer has been playing non-stop. I feel like I see it every single time I see a movie. There's always that trailer lined up, and then it got worse when they released another, like a newer trailer, and then I started seeing that over and over. So I feel like people know it exists, and I think some people will be interested in, like, it's McAvoy. Obviously people are like, oh yeah, the Split guy, and Professor X too. But in the case of like this, a horror movie, they're like, oh, Split. So and Blumhouse. So maybe that'll be enough to squeak it in there. No casual audience knows that this is a remake of a Danish film that came out only 2 years ago. You know what I mean? Number 3, I think, will be The Killer's Game, just because it is like a newer, like, action, just, entertaining, in quotes, I don't know the quality of the movie yet, kind of product with Dave Bautista. So I feel like that could get into number 3, considering the other movies have dropped off so much. Number 4, I think, will be Deadpool and Wolverine. And then number 5, Reagan. I don't have it in me. I don't have it in my heart to predict that god-awful twerp Matt Walsh's documentary. I can't do it, you know what I mean? Or God, the new God's Not Dead. In my heart, I cannot predict either film to make it in the top 5. If either of them make it, I don't know. This might be too extreme. God's Not Dead, I feel like, I don't know, that might make more sense, and it might not be as bad. I don't know the quality of those films. Obviously, I don't watch them. I don't keep up with them. But if that fucking twerp Matt Walsh's documentary gets into the top 5, what the fuck is our country? You know what I mean? Sorry, that's a completely different video. Anyways, what are your predictions for next week's top 5? Leave them in the comments below. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.